What is up, everybody? Renfail here, aka Renfail. Pew! And today we're coming to you to talk about the Smuggler here in Star Wars: The Old Republic. This is hands down my favorite of the Origin storylines. The class itself is a lot of fun and can be played in a variety of different ways, especially if you're coming into this game in 2023 after the Legacy of the Sith expansion, which unlocked all of the different playstyles that you can choose from when you come in and do your character creation of the Smuggler. Now, the storyline is going to stay the same, but the abilities that you have are completely different, and the weapons you can wield are completely different. This particular Smuggler I've got here plays as a Gunslinger, and I've got him spec'd in the dirty fighting discipline, but you could do Saboteur or Sharpshooter. They all are pretty much the same version of the Gunslinger. It's just a pew-pew DPS, but the other side of the fence is the, say, Scoundrel as an example, and it plays completely different, and it has completely different disciplines, which change how that character plays entirely. So I kind of want to dig into that today and talk a little bit about the Smuggler, thus the title on this video, which is the Ultimate Smuggler Guide for Star Wars: The Old Republic. And if this is well as received, I may end up doing guides for all the different classes. So if you like this kind of stuff, like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Don't forget to check out all the other playlists I do, because of course I do play a lot of other games here. Play a lot of Star Wars Republic, a lot of Lord of the Rings Online, but we also do console games, tabletop games. I do movies, books, and shows, reviews, and everything else. You can support with a super chat on this. You can also do super thanks on uploads and YouTube shorts, and of course memberships here on the channel are a great way to do monthly recurring. They start at $2.99 a month. Keeps me on the air. I get to do this full time thanks to the community, so thanks so much everybody. Plus there's a Patreon, which we'll talk more about at the end. But in the meantime, let's get done with the intro, get out of this, ranting stuff, and talk about the class. Now, getting into character creation for the Smuggler, it plays a lot of different ways these days, because you have 8 different options to choose from in terms of the style of Smuggler that you want to play. Now, that might seem overwhelming, but at the end of the day, the most important thing to understand is that the story for the Smuggler stays the same in terms of, if you're playing the base game, which is the Old Republic, the origin of the character, you're going to have the level 1 to 50 storyline, which is unique to the Smuggler. Then you start to get into the Rise of the Hutt Cartel and the Shadow Revan and all the other expansions that come after. Those are individual storylines that are the same for every class in the game. So really the only thing that's unique in the Old Republic were the original 8 origin stories. 4 on the Republic side, 4 on the Empire side. So on the Republic side, you got Jedi Knight, Jedi Consular, Smuggler, and Trooper. So the Smuggler, as they define it here, is quick, clever, and answering to no one. Smugglers know that sometimes luck is more important than skill, but it never hurts to have both. Master of the trick shot and willing to take advantage of every opportunity, the Gunslinger learns how to fire 2 blasters at once, specializing in long-range combat. So it's very important to understand that the styles dictate how you're going to play your Smuggler. It used to be that the Smuggler was one of 2 different types. If you played a Smuggler, you were either going to be a Gunslinger or you were going to be a Scoundrel. The Scoundrel is, in addition to a trusty blaster, Scoundrels pack a stealth pack, a scattergun, and a med pack. Everything they need to get in, knock the enemy out for a loop, and get out alive. And this actually has 2 different DPS specs, but then it also has a heal spec, which is the Sawbones. So you can equally either choose to do DPS or you can choose to heal. Now the cool thing about disciplines these days, and we'll get back into that once we get back into the actual gameplay component of this guide. Make sure to check the chapters below if you want to skip ahead to any section. But you can quickly switch disciplines on the fly these days. You can also have a couple of different styles if you're a VIP. So we'll dive more into that when we get into the gameplay section. In the meantime, though, we're going to continue talking about character creation, because there are a lot of different options these days. So back in the day, you were either a Gunslinger or a Scoundrel, right? And it's cool, you get a little animation sequence kind of giving you what the character is going to look like. But you can also choose all of these other styles these days, which used to be locked to other classes. But these days, anybody could take him. So you could choose to have the Smuggler storyline while also playing as a mercenary, which is it used to be the bounty hunter on the bounty hunter side. A pair of blasters, deadly heat-seeking missiles, and a heavy armor make the mercenary a mobile weapons platform, so you can actually wear heavy armor with this. No problem extra firepower can't solve, and no one with sense gets between a mercenary and their target. And this is also another one that has 2 different DPS specs and a heal spec. But it is a heavy armor wearing, dual wielding with jetpacks and rockets and a whole bunch of other stuff. The power tech is a defensive tank spec. So you get shielding, defensive tactics, and a high-powered flamethrower, which combine to make the power tech an impenetrable one-person blockade, getting up close and personal, and take down enemies of all size. So you actually have a tank spec with this one, as well as a couple of different DPS specs. One's damage over time, one is direct damage and melee. This is an up close and personal type build. So if you like the tanky type stuff, roll with a power tech. Sniper is going to be a long range to distance build, and it's just 3 different specs, whether you want to do direct damage, hybrid damage, or damage over time. But this is entirely ranged, and the further away the better. This used to be, as I remember correctly, the agent only. So the mercenary and power tech were the bounty hunters, and the sniper was one of the agents along with the operative. Now the operative is a lot of fun. My agent that I've got on the Imperial side that I played with my brother's bounty hunter was an operative. And it's kind of cool because you've got stealth stuff, but it's a combination of melee and damage over time, a little bit of stealth and stuff, but you do backstabs and some other stuff. So it's a lot of fun. This again is something if you like up close and personal, because it is a melee hybrid build. So you'll do some damage from a distance, but a lot of it's up close and personal. Then you've got the Commando, which used to be part of the of the Trooper, of the Republic Trooper build. This is a big-ass cannon, dude. So you're going to have that as your primary weapon. And you can either do your 2 DPS builds, or there's a heal spec as well. I don't know. I wouldn't choose the Commando, but that's me. Somebody out there might want to be a smuggler who has a giant-ass cannon. Then there's the Vanguard, who used to be like the tank spec for the Trooper. Unstoppable and utterly fearless Vanguards are the first and best line of defense and the most impressive militaries in the galaxy. You have a defense spec, which is defense and melee. Damage over time or melee, direct damage and melee. So this is another one that's up close and personal. You can do some stuff with your blaster rifle, but it's also a lot up close and personal. So at the end of the day, remember that the Smuggler storyline is going to be the thing that guides your journey through your level 1 to 50 escapades as a smuggler, but your style of gameplay is going to be defined by what you picked at the beginning. If this is your first time playing a smuggler, honestly, my suggestion for you would be to either go with the Gunslinger or the Scoundrel, because those are the 2 classic smuggler builds. But obviously you have the option to do whatever you want, so just pick what you think is going to be the best type of gameplay for your style, because that's going to give you the most enjoyment out of the game. It's not really going to change anything other than how you play. The story is still going to be the same. Now, those of you who have been paying attention might notice that I'm on a different character now, and the other smuggler that I was playing earlier at the beginning of the video was the one that I play when I do Flashpoints and the Rise of the Hutt Cartel content that I've been working through with Mujin. But this is the character that I started recently to do the episodic content here for my YouTube channel to cover the actual storyline, since I've never actually done the storyline in episodic format before. Now, this particular guy is spec'd as a Scoundrel. So I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit, because this gives you a chance to look at the difference between the disciplines of the Scoundrel versus, we're going to go over to my Gunslinger here in a little bit and check out his disciplines as well, so you kind of understand the difference in disciplines between these 2 combat styles, but then understanding that each combat style, which we talked about in the character creation process when we were looking at all of those different playstyles, they all have 3 different disciplines. So this one I talked about at the beginning, you can either do damage over time, which is what I've currently spec'd with, or you can go to Scrapper, which is direct damage and melee, or you can go to Sawbones, which is the heal spec. Now, if you're a subscriber, which I am not at the moment, you can unlock a second combat style, and you can have the ability to switch between. So you can have, as an example, a guy who is a Scoundrel and Gunslinger, and you could switch between those two different combat styles on the fly. If you're going to be grouping, as an example, maybe you play a lot solo with yourself, and so you want to be the gunslinger when you're solo, but then when you go group up with your friends, you're their healer. So you want to switch over to the Scoundrel build and be the Sawbones and be the healer for them. But again, this is just something that's only available to subscribers. Now, I'm not VIP at the moment. If you followed my channel for any length of time, I usually VIP for about 3 months out of the year, usually when I'm going to go do the most recent expansion content, which I have yet to do for 2023, but I'm due. So at some point this year, we're going to be getting into that. But in the meantime, I'm just running the free-to-play model, so I'm not worried about this because I'm just playing for my own personal enjoyment and the content that I'm doing. But this is to understand that this is for people who, if you're going to play a lot of Star Wars: The Old Republic and you're playing in a guild and with your friends and everything else, it does help and it does behoove you to have two different combat styles to go through, so that you can be flexible in your gameplay with your friends. In any case, if you haven't played this game in a long time, this is completely different than it used to be. So it used to be, back in the day, when you leveled, every level you would get like smuggler abilities, and then every other level you would get your specialty abilities. But with Legacy of the Sith, they completely redid the ability tree, and now what happens is you are given your abilities over time. Now, your first handful of abilities are going to be your basic smuggler abilities that are based on, say, the Scoundrel or Gunslinger or whatever it is that you've chosen. But then once you hit level 15, you're going to start getting these builds. So this is like the Ruffian, which this is the damage over time build, and these are the abilities that you get at 15, 23, 27, 35, and some of these you're going to get a handful of abilities right off the bat. So in this case, I got Pugnacity and Brutal Shots given to me right away along with Concussion. But other ones, like when you get to 23, as example, some of these you'll have to pick which one of these you want. So in some cases, you're going to get all of the abilities listed. In other places, it's going to be like, oh, choose one of these. And that'll be explained a little bit better when I switch over to the other character in a minute, because he has, he's level 60 or whatever, so he's got a whole bunch unlocked. So we'll talk about that more when we get to that point. But just to understand that, when you're leveling up these days, you might be going like, where are all my abilities? I used to be able to have abilities. And the trainers are still in the game, but there's no abilities on the trainers because you're given them automatically. So if you're confused by that, hit the C key, bring up your character sheet, go over to combat style, and that's where you're going to find all this stuff. And it's really easy to switch between disciplines. You can do this anytime you're in a safe spot, like the fleet or on your ship or in a cantina. You can switch between disciplines on the fly. You can also unlock the ability to switch disciplines in the field, even as a free-to-play individual. So if that's a big deal to you, you can unlock it. It's not a big deal to me, so I don't care about it. I will probably never go out of the Ruffian spec with this character because I like it. But if I wanted to, I could just click accept, and you're going to watch some things happen. It's going to change out my hotbar, and it's going to change some abilities here. So watch what happens here. Okay, it changed those abilities, and it gave me Pugnacity, and still got that. It's got Sucker Punch, got that. And I have Shifty Eyed, which is a passive. And then if I went over to Sawbones...
News update. Dantooine under assault.
Same thing.
The Nova Blades
it would
have committed
change,
a massive
and I would
fleet
get these
to
two
their raid on the
actives,
planet's surface.
and I would get this
More
passive.
on this story as it develops.
So you can choose to switch at your leisure and go from there. I'm going to go back into the Ruffian because those are the ones I want. I need to grab that back down. Punch yourself up. Where did it go here? Brutal Shots. Requires and consumes upper hand. Yeah, we're going to put that down there. So, that's how you do that. So let's switch over real quick to the other character so I can show you a little bit more what that looks like when you're higher level and you've got more abilities to choose from. How you can also change things on the fly based on maybe you want to make little adjustments to your build as you go along. All right, so here we are on my higher level Smuggler. We're going to go ahead and open up that guide again. So you'll notice because I'm level 60, I have a whole lot of different abilities compared to my other guy. And this is what I was talking about, is like some of these things, like level 23, you have an option of what you're going to choose here. So as being in the Dirty Fighter spec, I get to choose which one of these passives I want. So one of them makes my strap bomb deal 10% more damage. The other one refunds 2 energy for each target it hits. And this one increases the critical hit damage of your periodic bleed effects to targets it affects by 5%. So there's lots of different ways that you can tweak your spec as you go along. And also, as is the case with like level 27, there's 3 different abilities that I could choose from. One of which is an instant, and a couple of these are passives. So again, you get to choose how you're, leveling up your character, your dirty fighting here as you go along. Some of these you're only going to get one option. You might get one instant, one active and one passive, and then you're going to choose again. What do I want? I want chemical sightings, increase. Okay, we're going to choose that one. We might say that when each these types of warnings slows the target. Actually, why don't I have that choose? I'm going to do that real quick. So we're gonna switch that out. Actually, we're going to change that because that sounds cooler than what I had. I'm going to change that over as well. Once this is almost 30 seconds. Critical hit with periodic damage. Increases range attack accuracy by 30%. Armor. No, I'm good with that one. Okay. What about this one? Entering cover makes the next charge burst dirty blast activate instantly. Entering cover against. No, I like that one right there. So I'm pretty good with that. So you can see here how even like let's say you get these. You get to level 23. You pick one of these. You play for 10 minutes and you decide that you don't like that. Well, you can switch. Just go in here and choose the other passive that you like, and just tweak things as you go along. And then if you want to change, just whenever you're in a safe spot, I'm not going to with this character because I don't want to have to redo my hotbars, everybody. But you saw on the other character how when I switched over to a new discipline, it switched out, gave me all the new abilities based on the new things. So you would need to do that again for this character and get deeper into the combination process if you're going to go in and switch your disciplines here. I'm not going to do it right now because, like I said, I don't want to redo my hotbar. But you saw how that worked on the low-level character. It's the same process here. But as you get deeper into these lines, you'll see all the way up to max level, you get the option to choose various ways that you can customize, even though you're speccing down an ability tree as you go along. And of course, then you can look at your abilities tab itself and look at the legacy abilities, and then you can get in here and look at like your general abilities. Never forget to have your quick travel pulled down over here, and heroic moment. Usually you're given that automatically when you're leveling up, but hey, don't forget to check it. And then here's the Gunslinger stuff. These are all of your abilities that you have at your disposal, which are coming from over here, from your ability tree. There's a couple of different ways to get to the abilities. It's the easiest way is the ability tree to look at things. So that is the breakdown of the combat styles, disciplines, and the abilities within the ability tree. But a lot of you actually want to see the Smuggler in action. You guys like to see a little bit of combat, and the combat is different depending on the combat style that you've chosen, because remember, the combat style dictates. This is my Gunslinger, so he is very much about the pew pew pew. So 2 blasters, purely ranged. So let's go take a look at that. Let's go find some combat to get involved with. All right, so now it's time for a little combat demonstration. So here I've got my trusty Gunslinger ready for action. Yeah, pew pew. All right, now I've got some guys ahead of me. Now, one of the things to know about this particular build is that it's a ranged DPS class that relies on what used to be cover, and every smuggler used to use cover, but these days only the Gunslinger uses it. Now, I don't have to use cover for all my abilities, but some of my abilities do. Now, you're going to notice that if you look over here, when I unselect it, if I select a target, I suddenly am going to get this cover option that's going to show up in various locations, which means that I can duck down behind this area and get into cover. But I can also do it from back here, and I can just drop a deployable cover like so, and I can hunker down behind it. And this is going to allow me to activate certain abilities. Like, for example, this pulse detonator is an AoE knockback, but it says only usable in cover. So there are a handful of abilities that you can only do if you're hunkered down. Now, there are a variety of ways to do this. Like, I might want to just, trigger it all the way back here. I might be in a situation, like if I went up here, there's no cover to fight these dinosaur creatures, right? So I would need to use my deployable cover if I was going to go into combat with them. So I would hunker down here like this, chuck a grenade. Oh, I might not be able to see the target. So Let's get up here and do it like this. Like so. I would choose it and then chuck a grenade. Right, and then use my knock. Well, he ran away, so you can see this is all about the ranged DPS. Pew, pew, pew. Oh, somebody's taking him out. Alright, let's go a little bit deeper in here so we can see what the cover looks like if I were to use it on an actual object. Boom! Like so. So, that's what it looks like if you use an object for cover. Is this one going to give me an object? This one, well, right here. And you get to choose, so I'm gonna hit the F button and roll into cover right up on top of them. What's up, boys? Howdy. Use my knockback. So as you can see, this particular build is all about cover and doing damage from a distance. So it's a ranged build with my blaster. And I love this ability. The wounding shots where you just... Oh, get out of the way. The wounding shots where you're just sitting here just plowing away. Just... It's such an awesome ability. But, again, how you play your smuggler is going to be defined by your combat style. So let's go take a look at what the Scoundrel looks like so you can see the difference between these two builds of the smuggler and decide which one you think is going to work best for you. Alright, so you guys wanted to see a little bit of the Scoundrel in action. So you're going to notice right away, I don't have a lot of ranged abilities. And that's because this is a blended build that goes between melee and damage over time, or melee and ranged. So means I gotta get up and close to some of these abilities like quick shot, and some of these things like back blast with my shotgun. I have to be on the back end of the target. So I would, like, for example, send Corso in.
There.
He's gonna run in. I fire as I'm running up. Then I'm gonna get up in here. I'm gonna do some of my abilities that require me to get up front personal, back shot, boom, splatter gun. Get behind the target again. Like number 2 and number 3, blaster, whip, and quick shot. I gotta be up close and personal with this target. So get up in here, hit him with the back blast. Oh yeah, such a cool looking ability. Love it. Down they go. So still an extremely effective build, but it's different because I actually gotta get up and close and personal with it as opposed to being able to do damage from a distance. That's something to keep in mind as you play through your different builds. They're all going to play different based on the combat style that you've chosen. The discipline themselves might change slightly. Like the Sawbones, you're going to be a healer as opposed to being a DPSer. But these are just things to pay in mind. It's mostly about the combat style that's going to define how you play your smuggler. So there you have it, everyone. That is essentially a quick and easy ultimate guide to the Smuggler class in Star Wars: The Old Republic. It is quite a bit different in 2023 compared to the way things used to be when the game first launched and they had things divided into very specific class builds. Because these days, again, it is mostly about the gameplay style that you choose, because the class itself is kind of only defined by story these days, and that class story really only applies to the level 1 to 50 content of the game, which is what they call the origin stories these days, which is the classic Star Wars: The Old Republic experience, because that's what the game launched with those 8 origin stories. And all the expansions that have come since then kind of funnel you into a single storyline that everybody plays through, so you get the same experience no matter which class you originally started the game with. So if you like good RPGs and you like good storylines and a classic Star Wars experience, I highly recommend this game. It doesn't matter if you go VIP or free to play. There's tons of people playing. It's still a very, very solid game with a thriving community even in 2023. They're doing great changes to it. If you haven't checked out the most recent update, it was pretty amazing actually, and they've added a whole bunch of new cartel stuff. They got rid of they're addressing inflation. There's some really good things that are happening to the game in 2023, so hopefully you'll check it out. In the meantime, if you've gotten to the end of this video and you've listened to me ramble for however long this video ends up being after the edits and everything, hopefully I've inspired you to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update as I play Star Wars: The Old Republic and produce more guides for this game and beyond. I also do a lot of Lord of the Rings Online, other RPGs and MMORPGs, tabletop and beyond. Lots of other playlists because I also do TV shows, books, reviews for films and things of that nature. So hopefully you'll check all that other stuff out. And again, I get to do this full time thanks to the community who supports me. So if that's you, thank you so much. If you've been inspired to support, it's really easy. Anytime you see a premiere or a live stream, you can do a super chat directly on that. There's a button down below in the chat window where you can click. It's got like a dollar sign on it, and YouTube has some pre-programmed amounts that you can choose, or you can plug in whatever you can afford to do. Also, anytime you see a video that's been uploaded or a YouTube short, you can do a super thanks. Same process. There's a heart button down below. Click it, pre-programmed amounts, or you can plug in your own. There's also memberships here on the channel, which are monthly recurring. Starting at $2.99 a month, we have 3 different tiers. We do different things for different tiers, public shoutouts, private videos, polls, and stuff here on YouTube. So that's another great way. Also, there's a Patreon page where my wife, my brother, and I have our own video game. We have a point-and-click adventure game. So if you like the old King's Quest, Quest for Glory games, you might want to check that out. Plus, we have a fantasy book series and a tabletop world. So you can check all that stuff out. There's a Discord as well if you want to come hang out with our community and game with us and beyond. Hopefully, we'll see you in the next video. Until then, everybody, may the Force be with you.